Hello everybody, Rooster here with you. So today we're gonna talk about how I got started in all of this. It's been 16 years now. It'll be 16 years in next month. So in 8 years being out, man. 8 years, half my career here in April of this year. So, but anyway, got back in November 2001 is when I turned 21, and I was always trucking was something that I knew I wanted to do, that I had in my mind, man. And I loved trucking and talking to drivers and everything. When I was a teenager, I always had the CBs in my car and stuff, so I knew that. And so anyway, I'd been working a bunch of odd jobs like Walmart, Kmart, shit like that, security. And so I went ahead and anyway, got me a newspaper, found a nationwide truck driving school that was in there, called them, went to school up in Burlington, Iowa, came back. You know, I think I did another video on my truck driving school thing on another video, so you can check that out. And anyway, got hired by Werner before I left truck driving school. I got hired and came back, but they were on like 6 weeks out on a trainer, and I didn't want to wait. I was ready to go, so I went ahead and contacted Covenant, and they were able to get me hired right away. Put me on a Greyhound down to Southern California. So I went down there, stayed in a motel and everything, went through orientation for a few days, and then met up with my trainer, who actually came through, picked me up at the motel. And we are, this was funny because, you know, our first load, and we go to pick it up, and it was a team run. It was going, I think it was going out to Florida, you know. So we went and picked it up, and it required teams, and I was there with my trainer, and he was like, you know, 'cause at the time, you know, I was 21. I looked like I was about 13 at that time. So anyway, we checked in and pick up our load, and the guy goes, "Where's your team driver at?" And my trainer's like, "Well, he's right here." And the guy looks at me, he's like, and he's like, "No, seriously," you know, like he thought we was joking. We're like, nope, that's me. So anyway, we got our first load picked up, I remember, and we were gonna go to his house. He lived out in Arizona, out by he was like literally like out in the desert somewhere. So we're going along anyway, and we find coming along, there's a Covenant truck that was in the ditch, tried to do a U-turn in the median and got stuck, obviously, and almost tipped it over, you know. So being he pulls over and everything, and the guy was like, yeah, he's like, "Dispatch told me to turn around as soon as possible, that I needed to head back in the other direction." And like literally there was like an exit like a mile down the road. And even then I was like, it was like my first day of driving, and I'm like, man, that was stupid. I don't think, you know, when they tell you to turn around, they don't mean literally turn around. So we got there, we got that done, and we finally got back to his place. And I remember like literally he was like out in he had this little, like basically like a camper, like just some camper that he would pull with a truck, a pickup, you know. And it was camper sitting out, and he had some land out in the desert. So that was pretty interesting. And I spent I remember I was so excited to be driving and everything. I spent the first night, he slept in his trailer there, and I slept out in the truck, man, because I thought it was pretty cool. So that was one of my first night ever in a truck. So it was old FLD 120, man, Freightliner, freaking tanks they were. So anyway, so we did I remember we got up the next day and got the truck in, man, and I got to do my fair share as much as I could. You know, like that first, you know, for the first while, man, I couldn't drive about 8 hours a day, and then somehow I was start getting, you know, tired. I wasn't used to it yet, but I started doing the best that I could. Had a super 10 in it, which, I mean, obviously I trained on a straight 10, so it took a little bit of time for me on that too, to learn how to drive that truck. But yeah, that was my first run all the way across, you know, I-10 and everything, and I stayed with him for about 3 weeks. That was their minimum training. But come to the time to graduate, but I just said I wasn't quite ready to graduate yet, so, you know, I was kind of scared about the whole solo thing, and then that's when my buddy Nicholas that I met at the night before the graduation and testing out and everything, and we met, and I had another video about that too, on going solo and stuff, so you could, I don't want to get into all of that, but that's where I met my buddy Nick anyway, and we teamed up. I told him what was going on. He was from Ohio and I was from Colorado, but obviously had family in Ohio, so we made it work, and we teamed up, and I was able to run with him for another good, probably couple of months. So by the time that was all done, you know, then I was good to go, man. I was comfortable to start driving by myself after that, so a couple of months. So anyway, that was and then I ended up staying on with Covenant for about a year. Got that out of the way, and then that's when I moved on to some other stuff there. Kind of hopped around for a few years. You know, the first 8 years I spent 5 years of that with Navajo over 2 different periods. One for 2 years, one for 3 years. And then I had 1 year I went with Covenant. And then I went with Navajo from 03 to 05. And from 05 to 07, like, I was just kind of all over the place. Different small companies around Ohio and stuff. And then 2007 to 2010, I returned to Navajo for that 3 years. And then came over here in 2010. And so I've been here ever since. So, alright, man. Well, that's all about how I got started, and we'll see you later.